At this point, you should be at least a little bit comfortable with moving around using the viewport. If you're not, I recommend going back and watching that video tutorial again and getting more experience doing it, because now we're going to go into moving objects in 3D space. Most of the transform modes, which are grab, rotate, and scale, particularly the first two, grab and rotate, are done in relation to the direction that you're looking at. What I'm going to teach you first is how to use the keyboard shortcuts to go into these three transform modes. The reason why I want you to learn the keyboard shortcuts first is because they are by far the fastest. So the first one is grab. All you have to do is press G to go into grab mode. Now while I'm in grab mode, I can confirm where I want an object to be by left clicking. So I press G again to go into grab mode. Now, if I want to cancel, I right-click. Now, there's another way to do that. You can either press Enter to confirm or Escape to cancel. Granted, that's not as fast as using the mouse, but if you're in transfer mode or if you are using some tool and you want to get out of it, Escape usually will do it. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I can't move the object forward and backwards in space from the direction I'm looking. That's because when you're in grab mode, you can only grab the object and move it up and down and left and right in relation to your viewport. So you can see as I rotate this way, I can only move it side to side, up and down in relationship with my viewport. Another transfer mode is rotate. To go into rotate mode, you just press R for rotate. Now you can see there's a little dotted line right there. Between the center point of the object and my cursor. That's how it knows where to rotate it. So if I want to do fast rotation, I can just go up close, or if I want to have my more fine-tuned control, I can pull it further away from the object. And again, the confirm and cancel keyboard shortcuts and mouse clicks works exactly the same way. Right click to cancel or left click to confirm. Now the third one is scale. To go into scale mode, you press S for scale. Now you can see that there's that dotted line again, and it started from the center point of the object and also where my cursor is. Now I'm just going to cancel this and then show you what happens if I press S when my cursor is really close to the center point of the object. Now you can see that I can make the object a lot bigger, whereas if I do it further away, there doesn't seem to be that much movement. And that's just because it's done in relationship from where your cursor was when you first started to go into the transfer mode and where it is now. So, and again, right click cancels and left click confirms. Okay, so now we have our object. It's been moved, rotated, and it's also scaled. Now there's some other ways to manipulate objects. One of them is through using the manipulators. That's that red, green, and blue arrows that you can see coming out of the center of the object. Some people also call this the 3D transform widgets. I personally don't like to use these all the time because they're really easy to accidentally click on. All you have to do is left click on one of those things and then it starts moving, and a lot of people who just started out don't really know why. So even though I don't use these that often, and I recommend you don't use them that often because they do get in the way, I'm going to teach you what they do so you know what to look out for, and also so you're not confused. Now when I left click on one of these arrows, I can now start moving the object along that axis. And in this case, it's one of the axes in global space. So the blue one is Z, the yellow one, or the green one is Y, and the red one is X. So it's not quite as intuitive when you want to move an object. It's nice if you want to move it just along one axis, but there are keyboard shortcuts to do that as well, and I'll explain later. So if you just click on it, then you can move it. If you hold down left click and then drag, then you just let go and it will confirm it. So it does make a difference if you just click on it and then click and drag. Now we can change the type of transform mode that is on this manipulator by clicking on these buttons here. See, now right now I have the rotation manipulators on. They work in a similar way, except now they're circles wrapping around the center point of the object. And then again, you just left click on it and it starts moving. Then there's also the scale manipulator. Click on that one, and then see this one has something that looks similar to the grab mode manipulators, except they have a little box at the end instead of an arrow. You just click on that, and then you can scale the object along one axis, which effectively can stretch or squash it. Now, if you hold down Shift and then left click, you can have up to 3 of these on at a time. So if you really want to have all those manipulators on there, you can, but you can see pretty quickly that these can't get in the way. So you usually only want to have 1. Or even better yet, if you aren't going to be using them, you can just turn them off by clicking on that hand button right there that turns the manipulators on and off. Another way you can do that is just press Control and Space. And this is the menu for those buttons down here. So Control Space, that way you can easily enable or disable the manipulator and then turn on the different modes, like Combo, which has all 3 of them on. Then there's this option here, which you can change the orientation. Right now it's set to global, which is the global axes. And we can also set it to local, which is relative to the object. I'm going to turn all these off except for one, the grab mode, and then you can see that the green one is going through the top of the object, and then the blue and red ones are going out the sides. That's because now the manipulators are on the local axes of the object. There's also some other one where you can have it relative to the view, which is where you're currently looking at the object, like that. And then there's also normal, which really doesn't make a difference until you start using that into edit mode, because then these manipulators will be in relation to the direction that, say, a face is pointing towards or a vertice. Also, remember how I said that when we're working with number buttons where you can hold down Shift and Control? That works on these transform widgets as well. If you just hold down Shift, you can see now we have more fine-tune control, or if we hold down Control, it now does it in steps. Now that you know everything about the transform manipulators, turn them off. I generally don't use them. They can be useful when you're in pose mode, but again, they just get in the way because all you have to do is left-click on part of it, and then stuff starts moving. And again, the keyboard shortcuts are so much faster and, in my opinion, a little bit more intuitive for most of what you're going to be doing. And just so you can see that as well, as far as the Shift and Control. So I'm holding down Shift while I'm in grab mode, and now there's that fine-tune control. So that's pretty standard in Blender, the Shift and Control modifiers. There's another way that you can get into these transfer modes, and that is by using mouse gestures. I honestly never ever use these, much for the same reason why I don't use the transform widgets, because they're just not as fast. But I'm going to teach them anyway, because a lot of people who started using Blender will accidentally start using these and don't know what's going on. If you hold down the left mouse button, you can see you start drawing these lines. Okay, what those are is their mouse gestures. There are 3 gestures that you can use to go into the different transform modes. If you hold down the left mouse button and then just drag to make a straight line and then let go, you go into grab mode. Now, this straight line can be done in any direction. It can be done to the side, diagonal, down, doesn't matter. It just has to be a straight line. And that puts you in grab mode. If you make a circular curved line like that, it puts you into rotate mode. And again, you can do these in any direction. And then if you make a V shape, or a very, very tight V shape where you basically just go out and then in, then you go into scale mode. Like that. Okay, so if you start doing these by accident, you know what's going on. Also another thing which is kind of off topic, but while we're talking about mouse gestures, as far as things that people accidentally do while trying to figure out the whole left click, right click thing in Blender, is if you hold down the left click in this or the right click button in the same spot, it brings up the toolbar. A faster way to do that is to just press the spacebar. And I guess there's also a fourth way to go into the transform modes, and that is by using the toolbar. Just press space and then go to transform, and there you can see we have grab, move, rotate, scale, and all those other things. You'll notice that it actually puts the keyboard shortcut right there. So if you ever forget a keyboard shortcut, as long as you know how to get to it through the toolbar or through these different menus, then you can look it up. So that's one way that Blender has basically an internal documentation for the keyboard shortcuts, because they will always be visible on the right side for any menu option. Okay, let's go full circle and go back to our wonderful keyboard shortcuts. The transform, the manipulators allow you to move, rotate, or scale an object in one axis, also referred to as axis locking, and you can do that with the keyboard shortcuts as well. Well, while you're in, let's say, grab mode, so press G to go into grab mode, and you want to lock on a certain axis, just press the letter of the axis on the keyboard like X, Y, or Z. That allows you to lock the object, the movement of the object, in one of those three axes. If I press Z again, so if I press Z twice, now it's in the local axis of the object. So now you can see I'm moving it just up and down in relationship to the way the cube is pointing. So just to show you again, press G to go into grab mode, press Y to lock on the global y-axis, and then Y again to lock on the local y-axis. And then again, left click confirms or right click cancels. You can also do that with scale as well. You just press Y to do the global Y, and then Y again to do the local Y. See, now it's actually squishing and squashing the way it's supposed to. Now, rotation is a little bit different, because when you're rotating an object, you're basically rotating on one axis, and that's the axis that's going between us and the object. In other words, we can only rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise from the way we're looking at it. Now, instead of having to move your view in order to rotate the object on a different axis, you can press R again, and now it's in what is referred to as trackball mode. So now I can move the object on the other two axes that I couldn't before. So if we want to clear the location of an object and just put it right back to the center of our world, we press Alt-G. So it's going to say, do you want to clear the location? Left click to confirm it, and now we can see that our object moved to the center of our world. If I want to clear the rotation, I press Alt-R and then confirm that. And if I want to clear the scale, it's Alt-S. Now, the nice thing about that, especially when you're posing a character, you can just select all the bones in a character and then do the Alt-R and occasionally Alt-G to change the location, and then it puts it right back to the base pose. Alright, so that about does it for manipulating objects in 3D space. These keyboard shortcuts and manipulators and gestures, that all works when we start modeling an object.